And now, introducing your host, Rachel Quirico!
Welcome back to day one of the Hearthstone America's Championship, live from San Francisco. All 8 of our players are still in the running for the championship title, but some are in better positions than others. Let's take a quick look at the bracket. Jab, Nias, Purple, and VLPS will be playing later today, and they will be pairing off once again in the best of 5 conquest format. For those of you unfamiliar, we have a short video for you what that's all about.
Conquest is a match format created for competitive Hearthstone tournament play and is the official match format for the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship. Here's how it works. Each player begins with 3 decks using a unique class for each deck. For example, a player can have a warrior deck, a priest deck, and a warlock deck, but not 2 different warlock decks. When a match begins, each player selects their first deck without telling the other player which one they've chosen to play with.
Kerash versus Uther.
After the first game ends, the winning player's deck is declared victorious and can no longer be used, and they must choose from their remaining decks for Game 2. The losing player may choose to use the same deck they just lost with, or one of their remaining decks. This continues through Games 3, 4, and 5 if necessary. Once a player has conquered their opponent with all 3 of their decks, the match is over and the winning player advances. Conquest will be used at the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship, which has a prize pool of $250,000. Now that you know the format, try taking part in an online tournament or a fireside gathering near you.
And now holding our hands and guiding us gently through the winners' matches today, we have the casting team of Robert A. Wing, Brian Kibler, and Savitz.
Thank you, Rachel, and welcome back to the Hearthstone America's Championship. I am joined at the desk now by Savij and Brian Kibler. Guys, obviously we just witnessed a crazy match, more coming up. VLPS squeaking by a tight series with Mologel. Savij, did you get a chance to see that?
Yeah, I was watching most of it, and really some interesting decision making. It was a cool match.
It was very fun. Brian, obviously you were there.
Yeah, I mean, we saw those really dramatic moments with the Leroy kill to really sort of swing the match back toward Mologel, but VLPS was able to take it in the end.
Yeah, it was a very well-played series, and I think both the players from Brazil thus far have put out extremely strong showings, respectively taking their series to 5, and definitely not a region to sleep on, and there's still more from those guys coming up, so.
Yeah, definitely excited to see
We want to
how
hear, though, obviously, what did you think of those matches? What did you think of Brazil's showing thus far? Go ahead and tweet at @PlayHearthstone or tweet any of us individually with the hashtag HWC2015, and we'll be obviously interacting on social in between our matches and for the rest of the day. So definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. Coming up though, we have the winners match right now between obviously Jab
and Purple Train.
Yeah, so both of them won very close series. Purple, kind of seemed really relaxed in his first initial series against Korea, but then suddenly went from being 2-0 to 2-all, and Jab, nail-biter against Trump, came down to, in true Jab fashion, tracking into Fireball. So he used a Hunter spell as mage. So.
It was Spell Slayer into tracking into Fireball.
Right.
And yeah, incredibly dramatic finish there.
Right, so we actually had a chance to sit down with Jab earlier and talk to him, and here's what he had to say.
Where do you live right now? Where are you located?
I live in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Is there much of a Hearthstone scene there at all?
There's a few players that come from there, actually. Chalky and Just Sayin are a couple of them.
And what brought you to Hearthstone initially?
My gaming started with like Pokemon or something on a Game Boy. Competitive gaming, I kind of got familiarized with the scene from League of Legends, but I never really put too much time into becoming the best.
Has your practice for BlizzCon been any different or more intense than your practice for other tournaments?
I put a lot of prep work into every tournament, so I'd say it's on about the same level. I go into everything wanting to win just as bad as I want to win this.
What does your practice look like? Do you do a lot of number crunching or?
I have an Excel spreadsheet of all my decks and I track the stats on ladder.
What was it like when your friend approached you to join this team? I mean, do you think that being part of a team is really important in Hearthstone?
Oh yeah, I don't think you can really get very far without a team. I feel like with a team, there's a lot more support.
Yeah, you're on Hearthlytics, which is a pretty well-known team now, but I would say that you're probably one of their most well-known members. So can you tell me a little bit about Hearthlytics and introduce me to them?
Okay, Hearthlytics was actually founded by a real-life friend of mine that I've known, and he kind of just approached me. Like, he saw I started performing better in tournaments, and he really wanted to put something together because I was just not on a team at the moment.
You stream once in a while. So how does streaming fit into competitive Hearthstone for you?
Streaming is basically my job. I do it for income, but I also do it because I really enjoy it. When I'm streaming, I actually take the gameplay very seriously, and I try to take an analytical approach to my stream and teach people as well. So yeah, I improve my gameplay a lot by streaming.
How excited would you be to qualify for BlizzCon?
Since I didn't make it through last year, I just fell short. It'd be one of the best things that could happen in my Hearthstone career at the moment.
Yeah, last year you were so close last year, and this is sort of like the same spot you're in now this year, this weekend. So what is the biggest difference between last year when you were here and this year?
I feel like I've improved a lot since last year. Last year I was making way more mistakes than I do in my play now, so I think I definitely have what it takes to win through now.
Do you have any rituals that you have to perform to feel like you're doing your best?
Well, I like to eat bananas before I play matches and also drink a lot of water.
That's smart. Make sure we have bananas at BlizzCon, everybody. Can you tell me a little bit about the Jab Boys?
All right, Jab Boys is just a term that I coined, like my subscribers, and also it's a Skype group of other players and friends in the scene.
All right, so if the Jab Boys are watching right now, what do you want to say to them?
Thanks for supporting me all the way through everything. Hope to win BlizzCon.
Jab versus Purple.
We see a very inventive handshake from Purple and Jab there. Jab, when I was checking out the Twitch chat earlier, I saw a lot of Jab Boys in the chat. He's a streamer who's really started to develop in popularity, and people are kind of catching on to the fact that he is really just he flies under the radar, but he's one of the best players in the North American scene. Not only does he, play a lot of the high tier decks, he breaks them down, reconstructs them, as he said, catalogs a lot of what works, and I think that really kind of gives him that insight. Do you think that's something, the ability to build decks and kind of make your own stuff, makes you a better player, Brian?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so much of what is important in being successful in Hearthstone is your ability to sort of understand the dynamics of how decks match up against each other and what matters at a given time. And being able to identify that and put it into practice by, okay, well, I want to play this card in this deck because in this situation, in this metagame I expect, that's what I expect to be important.
Right, and obviously he did not bring Patron Warrior with him, which is, a lot of players are saying is one of the strongest decks right now in the scene, but, Jab feels very strongly that the lineup he's brought is one that actually has the edge against a lot of his opponents.
Yeah.
Savij, what would you say comes into your mind when you're picking decks for these tournaments? Like, do you always just go by what is ranked as the highest decks, or do you tend to pick what's more comfortable for you?
You definitely want to bring decks that you think that are gonna match up well against the most popular decks. Like, we have seen a lot of decks that seem to be targeted against handlock in specific. With those big game handlers, like we see one from Purple right here. I had a chance to talk to Purple just before the match, and Purple actually felt like he was at a disadvantage with the deck lists and the lineups against Jab, mainly because of the tempo mage in Jab's lineup. Like, Purple was really worried about that deck.
Right, we see Jab opening up with his signature mid-range Hunter. Unstable Ghoul is going to come down and contest the pair of spiders, but Jab's not too concerned about it at the moment. Purple opens up now with Patron, which is a deck he feels very, very strongly about. Has said over and over he feels it is the best deck, and mid-range Hunter can have an uphill battle against that deck.
And we saw a rock, paper, scissors from these guys just before the match, and looks like Purple not only won that one, but also going into game one, he got at least a slight edge with his Warrior against the Hunter.
We actually see here that Jab, chose to hold the bow last turn, though he could have pointed out, and he's kind of figuring out exactly what he wants to do to deal with this Unstable Ghoul, as well as the Frothing Berserker, which is going to have a lot of attack after this Unstable Ghoul gets killed.
That's pretty scary with that Frothing on the board. He doesn't have a good way to deal with it right now. Something like Quick Shot would be really nice, but it's not there. He could kill him with the bow after attacking with both of the minions that he has right now into the Unstable Ghoul first, but he's gonna take a lot of damage from the Frothing if he would to do that.
Yeah, that Frothing was going to hit really hard. I mean, Jab has the option to potentially use Houndmaster on either of his minions, which will allow him to potentially attack through the Unstable Ghoul. It will force the other minion to die because of the Unstable Ghoul effect. Looks like he's deciding whether he wants to pump this. Yeah.
Yep, he's going to do it.
This is going to go ahead and give him the minion he gets from the web spinner. It's going to make it to where Purple still has to get through the buffed up Haunted Creeper. And obviously, Patron doesn't run silent, so he's going to have to just muscle his way through it.
So here, this is kind of interesting because Jab could have chosen to play Houndmaster on the web spinner, and then he would have two 1/1 spiders in play right now from the Haunted Creeper dying. Looks like he decided that he would rather not have those in play immediately. Perhaps because he doesn't want to get whirlwinded.
Yeah, it's a close call, but it seems that it worked out slightly better this way around.
There is 11 damage to the face in a single attack from that Frothing Berserker.
Yeah, that's
the crowd lets us hear it. That was that's a lot of damage there from that single Frothing Berserker. He's finally going to get taken out, but does 11 damage to Jab's face before he finally goes. So very productive outing for that Frothing Berserker.
And there's his buddy.
Yeah.
Purple just
another one.
Not playing any kind of combo here. He's just playing, kill you with Frothing Berserker.
This is extremely interesting because obviously Frothing Berserker is a huge source of damage for this deck. Grim Patron with the Warsong Commander can be very brutal against the mid-range Hunter, but
that's actually pretty interesting because the Nerubian Weblord here increases the cost of any minion with Battle Cry by 2, which includes the Lotheb in Jab's hand, which would have potentially been a play he could have made this turn.
But it also includes the Gnomish Inventor
Right.
for Purple.
And the Big Game Hunter.
Yeah, that too. The Big Game Hunter, well, it's probably not something that he would have loved to play this turn, but the Gnomish Inventor, just because of the Nerubar Weblord on the board, he won't be able to armor up after it.
Yeah.
And that's actually very important because in these matchups, the Hunter doesn't tend to lose by a wide margin. It's usually somewhere like 7 to 13 health, and they just can't get that last bit of damage in. So every time you prevent the Patron from armoring up, that's actually very relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. And here, well, the Savannah Hymen, that one doesn't have a battle cry, so it will be playable, and to see anything else but the Hymen would be really shocking.
Yeah, obviously he could play down something like the Tall Strider and Hero Power, but at this point, obviously, Savannah Hymen, strongest card in Jab's deck, and he's just got to get it down there.
Yeah, way too good to pass up here.
Yeah. And the question is now, obviously he's decided he's not going to deal with the Gnomish Inventor for now. So does he... Looks like he's considering something, not entirely sure what at the moment, being out of mana.
Could kill it.
He's just going to kill it this way.
Say an attack with the weapon. So, wow, he's actually down to 11 health.
He took so much damage from the Frothing Berserkers.
Oh wow, that Inner Rage. It could potentially allow him to big game hunt the Hymen, but he does have 2 executes as well. So it's a tough spot for Purple right now, for sure. He's already down to 18, and there's such a huge board from Jab's side right now. No real way to clear all that stuff.
And that Lotheb in Jab's hand could end up being pretty key. If he does end up putting Purple in a situation where he has basically a turn window to actually deal with his board, that will shut down his ability to play anything like that Inner Rage into Execute.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it looks, this may end up being very bad for Purple because the Lotheb can lock out most of his possible plays next turn.
Right. The more I think about it, the more I actually really like him trading the Nerubian Weblord into the Gnomish Inventor, because now he can get it killed off, and then he can play Lotheb at 5 mana instead of 7, so he's giving himself options, and it looks like he's pondering trading that into the Corsair as well. Probably the Mad Scientist.
Yeah, I would expect to see these 2 attack, and then Lotheb come down, Hero Power, attack your face, and this sets up lethal for next turn and locks out Purple from being able to play spells next turn.
Purple Space says it all.
Yeah,
That is
we saw that expression like, oh, this is not good. This is not good.
Right, and I like so far Jab. It took a lot of damage from the Frothing Berserker, but it didn't stop him from continuing to make very aggressive lines and try to build up the board so that he can win this game. And Purple plays down the. Yeah.
And there's Freezing Trap, stops him from even being able to attack his Acolyte into one of those minions and then execute for 6 mana.
Quick game 1 victory for Jab there. Jab played that exactly how he needed to, locked Purple out of making any kind of moves, and we're already 1-0 for Jab.
Yeah, I mean, Purple did take a significant early health lead with that Frothing Berserker, but that was not really enough. That's not really the way that deck tends to win. No. It did put a lot of pressure on Jab and force him to respond, but it also uses a significant number of Purple's resources and ultimately didn't do enough to contest the board, and he fell behind.
That's right. And Jab taking that 1-0 with his Hunter, his signature Hunter, always been known for that mid-range Hunter. Even back when Phase Hunter was very popular, the Hybrid Hunter was popular, Jab sticked all the way through with his mid-range one, getting rank 1 Legend with the deck. And wow, it's pretty amazing to see him still play that deck. Now with the inclusion of Ram Wrangler.
right?
Yeah.
So Purple now is down 0-1 to Jab, and we actually had a chance to talk to Purple earlier in the week and kind of get his thoughts on a couple of subjects.
Well, how do you feel about how far you've made it in the tournament already? What do you think that was attributed to?
I pretty much rolled over absolutely everyone in the qualifier. I feel like I was a bit more prepared than everyone. I feel like my lineup was solid, I played decently. Overall, I think I got better cards than my opponents did for the most part.
So what do you think makes the biggest difference when you sit down across from an opponent for a match? Is it the decks you brought? Is it your level of confidence?
I think it's drawing wall growth. That sums it up for the most part. With enough practice, you just see the same situation come up, and maybe you didn't do the right thing like in practice, but you messed up, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Having extensively practiced particular matchups, you actually just know what you're supposed to be doing, and there's no trial and error when you actually get into the tournament. So that's how I feel I have a bit of an edge over other players in the field.
Going into the finals and competing on the Hearthstone World Championship stage, what would that mean to you?
It means a lot. I kind of want to follow up in Firebat's footsteps, for sure. I helped him a lot last year, and he helped me a lot this year. It'd mean a lot to at least keep the championship in our circles of friends. It'd be pretty cool to be called world champion.
Keeping the championship in your circle of friends, you have an elite group of friends who are some of the best in the world at Hearthstone. Do you guys consider yourselves friends above all else, or are you still largely a group of competitive players who would choose the victory over a friendship?
I wouldn't want to be playing any of those guys. It'd be just like my match against Trump in the regionals, I didn't want to lose it because I knew I had to play Firebat if I lost it. In that respect, it's just, yeah, we're friends, and it's just like we're also competitors. We want to win, we don't want to lose to each other. But at the same time, it's lose-lose, because even if you win, you hurt your friend. So you don't ever want to be playing against him. If it comes up, like I had to play Zalay, my former teammate, and I wasn't going to lose to him. Like, I felt bad for a week afterwards.
It would obviously mean a lot to win the money, to win the trophy. Is there another prize or another facet of the victory that would
I'm pretty sure bragging rights go over championships, go over belts, go over trophies, go over money. The fact that you can sit down at a bar and be like, hey, remember when you didn't win? It's a pretty good feeling. You definitely want to have that one.
Yeah, obviously, Purple didn't want to run into Firebat in the open qualifiers, but Jab is also another player he doesn't want to run into. Jab, obviously doing a very, very solid job so far in this tournament, continuing what was a great amount of success coming through the open qualifiers, and, well, not even through the open qualifiers, right? The North American qualifier tournament. Didn't lose a single series, and has yet to lose one overall.
Yeah, I mean, Jab has been a very impressive player. Purple as well. The two of them have some of the strongest resumes coming into this event. And, now one of them is going to advance to the semifinals of the Americas Championship.
Yep.
We see Jab here going ahead and bringing out that Tempo Mage very early on. We saw earlier, it has a lot of fun cards in it. Has Blingtron, it has Grand Crusader. Savij, what do you make of these kind of cards that, have these wide range of possibilities? Are these the types of cards you would run?
I still have my doubts about Arcane Blast, but I was talking with Reynard about that card, and he seemed really convinced that it's quite powerful in that, and I agree, it does give tempo to the Tempo Mage. It's still a little bit situational. Sometimes early on you might draw too many spells, but looks like he won't be drawing too many spells in this one. It has solid 2 and a 3 to start things off.
Purple busts out that handlock. This is kind of an interesting matchup because there's a world where the Mage has those fireballs in like the top half of the deck and can punish the handlock very early on. But Brian, if you were to go ahead and say that one of these classes has the favorite in this matchup, who would it be?
I generally like to be on the mage side here, but that has a lot to do with the fact that I play a lot more mage than I do warlock. But I do think that the mage has the ability to close out the game in situations where the handlock against many other classes would seem to have things kind of locked up.
No, that's incredible. That extra card that that purple got from the spell slinger actually keeps the Twilight Drake out of the fireball range.
Yeah, we see Jab playing down the Flamewaker now. He got Living Roots off of his spell slinger, which is great because it allows him to very quickly get some value off the Flamewaker. Flamewaker actually does 2 random points of damage every time a spell is cast and Flamewaker is on the board. We see cards like Arcane Missile synergize very well because it's cheap. It does a lot of overall damage. Flame Cannon, another great card, currently in Jab's hand. Great for establishing early tempo, and obviously has high synergy with the Flamewaker.
Yeah, the Tempo Mage deck really tries to leverage these cheap spells that can allow it to interact with the board to prevent the opponent from being able to get a strong board presence early on and allow it to continue to get in minion damage, and then is able to close out the game with burn spells like Fireball with Frostbolt targeting the opponent's face.
Yeah, interesting to see Purple go for the early taunt here. You usually don't see a taunt come down on turn 4, but he did have all 4 in his hand, so it does make a lot of sense. Let's see what the Flame Cannon... Bad news for Purple right here.
Yeah, Flame Cannon hits what Jab wants to hit, which is the 4/4 taunt minion, and now Jab has the ability to really potentially take over this board here.
Right, I see the rest of his hand is really intimidating. He's got that Grand Crusader to come out on turn 6. He's got Dr. Boom on 7. Now, that will obviously prompt Purple to draw Big Game Hunter, as has been the case for basically this entire tournament, but if he doesn't somehow, that's going to be a very, very intimidating board. And you know, Mountain Giant is in his hand. It's a threat. It's something that he can put down that forces Jab to have answers. But the rest of his hand is pretty much taunts and, you know, Mal'Ganis, who won't be a factor until later on unless Void Color is drawn.
And Grand Crusader is a really interesting card. We haven't seen a ton of prior to this event, but we've seen quite a few Grand Crusaders come up in this tournament. And Jab was saying earlier that he felt like the Tempo Mage deck really tends to run out of cards, run out of action sort of in the mid game, and because it's able to leverage pretty much any spell, even the weaker Paladin cards like even Eye for an Eye, can end up being powerful effects that it is able to generate for the Tempo Mage deck.
Yeah, I agree. It seems to kind of fill in a spot, even if the card is not like the greatest value ever. It does fall in a spot on that turn 6, where otherwise the Tempo Mage wouldn't have all that many plays.
Right now, I believe we saw Solemn Vigil earlier, actually, in the first series of the day, Trump versus Jab. And Solemn Vigil is a card that, you know, especially if you're not expecting it, right? If you're just making let your opponent make trades because you wanted to put in face damage, and then you get that really cheap Solemn Vigil, you draw some cards, it can be game-changing, and obviously we saw that earlier. So.
Well, I mean, exactly the reason that Jab has this in his deck is because the deck can run out of resources, and that's a card that gets you more resources.
Yeah.
And in this matchup in particular, when you are digging for very specific things like fireballs to finish your opponent off, any card that draws cards has a pretty significant impact on the game.
We see Purple take a pretty defensive line here. He chooses to clear out the Grand Crusader. He dart bombs the Arcane Limb that he got from the Spellslinger.
Yeah.
So.
Purple really wants to mine the Void Caller as soon as possible to get the Mal'Ganis out. He doesn't want to pay the 9 mana for that. The Mal'Ganis is a card that can swing the game because the Tempo Mage doesn't run Big Game Hunter. The Tempo Mage doesn't run Polymorph. So if you get that out there from a Void Caller, it can actually kind of win the game alone, I would say.
Right, kind of to what you're saying, Tempo Mage is one of those decks where it runs a lot of stuff based on focusing on its own agenda as opposed to reacting to the agendas of other decks. So.
Ooh, boom at the face. That's exactly what he was hoping for. He would probably like to get even a tiny bit more damage on his
strangely,
face.
he would prefer that Boombot hit him harder in the face. The weird dynamic of Handlock and its use of its health total as a resource mechanism.
Absolutely, but here, if he goes for the Mortal Coil and the Boombot kills off the Sun Fury Protector, instead of going to his face, he will no longer be able to play the Molten Giant and the Defender of Argus.
And I think that's exactly what he wants to do, just play Molten Giant, play Defender here. It allows him to set up 2 taunts.
Yeah, I think that's probably the
This is the safest place.
Yeah, definitely the safest.
And if you're Purple right now, you have to be playing safe. There's too many resources in the hand of Jab, and obviously Tempo Mage can get really out of hand. And you know, this card came up earlier as one of the cards we were showing off on screen. Frostbolt with Flamemaker has obvious synergy, just like those other low-cost spells. And you know, it's time to make some Flamemaker magic. See what happens.
Yeah, that Solemn Vigil potentially gonna be 0 mana. Wow.
We'll see. Right,
wait, how much is that? Is there Frostbolts and then Vigil for 0? It's 4 missiles. Not quite little, just yet, because he doesn't have the mana.
He did just see a Molten Giant come down, and only 1 Molten Giant. So he has to be thinking that. You see Purple with a bit of a shake of his head. Yeah, Frostbolt would actually be, I think it would be game over here.
Yeah,
would
but
it?
it precisely lethal
Now-
was the bigger blast first look.
Purple does have anti-kill bond. So
He
it's
does.
not-
That is true.
Right, it's not the end for him right now, and Jab's hand is actually doesn't really have anything that. I mean, he has Arcane Intellect, which can obviously take advantage of the Flame Waker, but he
Yep.
doesn't have something like a Fireball.
But Purple doesn't really have plays here. He can only play the heal button. He has to play the heal button to stay alive. But that's his only play this turn.
But next turn, it's going to be either Jaraxxus or Malagani, so things
Oh,
are going to get
Blingtron.
better.
If he gets a next turn.
Do you Arcane Intellect or Blingtron here now?
Well, you can still Arcane Intellect first.
But which one? Yeah, okay, so you do that first.
Let's see what he finds.
And Purple with, again, a shake of his head here. Oh, but nothing that enables the Flame Waker anymore other than that counter spell.
It's not what he was hoping to get.
We'll see what comes
then-
off the Spell Slinger here.
Dead or alive.
Oh, dear!
Is it Huffer? No.
No, wait, what? That's not a hopper. That's weird.
Yeah, we should probably talk to somebody about that. That's supposed to be Huffer, but
But now Purple's getting into the stage of the game where he's able to leverage either Mal'Ganis or Lord Jaraxxus to stay alive.
he can also rampage the anti-kill bot. That anti-kill bot could get so angry.
It is. The problem is that neither Mal'Ganis nor Lord Jaraxxus really leave him in a safe spot. He can play Jaraxxus, put him to 15, then he would have to attack and clear this Misha with his anti-heal bot and his weapon. That still leaves it 11, facing down Flame Waker and a Spell Slinger, and an opponent with a ton of cards in hand.
Yeah, that is true. I think we might see the Shadow Flame come down here. Either with Rampage and Shadow Flame or with Giant and the Shadow Flame. The Lord Jaraxxus seems a bit off because he needs to use his face just to clear the Misha. Then it's going to be an empty board. He's going to be down to 11 with 2 minions on the board, 5 power, plus the Flame Waker effect going to add some extra. So I think maybe just risk the Fireball and
This kind of goes to
Ooh, a
show
life
one of the,
tap. Wow.
Ooh, that is ambitious.
see how it works out.
Go for that Shadow Flame play.
Yep.
So a Fireball would be lethal here. Jab
Yeah.
can get it off the top. And he's got the Azure Drake, so he's got 2 chances to
Yep.
draw it.
Yep. You could also get a Frost Bolt from this. So
You could get an
There's also
Arcanite Reaper,
Blingtron. Yeah,
Warhowl.
Blingtron into Arcanite
Oh,
Reaper.
that's true. That's
Oh, and there
that
it
is
is!
it! Off the top.
Fireball.
Jab is going to go up 2-0. His Tempo Mage deck not struggling nearly as much as it did against Trump. It got the draws it needed.
Although with the same ending, really, a little less dramatic with the Spell Slinger to tracking, it still was draw Fireball when you need it. There it was, Fireball, end the game.
Yeah, really nice victory there for Jab. But Purple was expecting to lose a game to the Mage already from what he said before the match. So no real surprise there. He's down 2-0 right now. The first game was much more painful for him because that was a matchup that he was supposed to win just based on the classes. Obviously anything can happen, but he's in a rough spot right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Down
he has to win 3 straight games against Jab's Druid deck, and Druid is a deck that you give it any opportunity, you can steal a game from anyone.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we have another situation where we have countries kind of at war here for Hearthstone, and we have USA versus Canada, the old showdown. Obviously, everyone's expected forever, so we want to know who you think is going to win. Obviously, Jab representing USA, so if you believe Jab's going to win, go ahead and tweet @PlayHearthstone with #USAWin. Purple representing the Maple Leaf, so tweet @PlayHearthstone with can win, because Canada can win still.
It can. It's not particularly likely at this point with Purple down 2 games to 0, but it's possible. Anything can happen.
Right. So, if you're Purple, where do you begin on your comeback quest, knowing you have to get your wins?
Well,
Handlock.
the answer is Warlock.
Yeah, there we have it. I don't think it really matters what he's going to go first. He has to win with all 3 of his decks anyway. And there's no real need for knowledge first. Because sometimes if you're unsure about some cards in your opponent's deck, you might go with the deck that mulligans all the same. So you don't need to... You can't really leverage the knowledge. But here, going up against a Druid, he knows what cards are going to be in there. And
Jab is a very strong opening hand too. He has Innervate and Shade of Naxxramas, along with a second copy of Shade of Naxxramas with the coin. So he can actually drop 2 Shade of Naxxramas well before Purple is able to cast Hellfire. And getting those in play out of range of those mass removal effects is very powerful.
that's such a great start from Jab. Turn 1 Shade into turn 2 Shade.
Oh, he decides not to go for the second shade.
Okay.
If he did play the second shade here, he would be both leaving himself without any additional ramp with more expensive cards in his hands, so he wouldn't have additional plays. And the second shade, if Purple did find Hellfire, would only be 3-3 on Purple's turn 4.
That's right, so the Hellfire would clear that one. And by keeping the coin right here, he has a nice curve for the following turns. He can play the Shade now, he has the Shredder for next turn, and he can play the Emperor on 5 with the coin.
Now, as good as Jab's start was, if you look at Purple's hands, he has a ton of threats.
Oh, yes.
He has the 2 Twilight Drakes, he has the Big Game Hunter, so Jab might actually very quickly here find himself on the back foot having to deal with these threats.
Absolutely. But is that hand so strong from Purple in the end? I mean, the Void Color is great if he had a Demon, but he doesn't have a Demon. It's also lacking the Molten Giants. If Jab puts a lot of pressure early on, he cannot punish with Moltens. It's likely that Jab will play around the Moltens regardless of whether Purple has those.
It's interesting that Jab chose to expose his Shade of Naxxramas last turn.
Yeah.
Typically, especially in a matchup like this, you'll often see players just keep their Shade stealth, wait for it to grow to enormous size, and then go for a single lethal attack or huge attack when they have something like, say, a Loatheb to stop their opponent from being able to interact.
Absolutely.
But Jab's going very aggressive here. And he already has Purple down to 16.
There's so much damage. 8 on the board and 7 in his hand, so he's actually 1 damage off lethal right now with just the Roar and the Hero Power.
so crazy.
Yeah, and he could charge the Druid of the Claw, obviously make it a 4/4 with charge, Catus for fights. We've talked about this, can't missiles, obviously very deadly. Or he could just look to coin out Emperor Thor's hand. He's definitely got options, and it'd be very interesting because when 2 Twilight Drakes are on the board, you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to basically try to play the value game with Handlock, or if you're just going to keep punching him in the face.
And this Emperor Thor's is actually pretty huge because the cost reduction on both Savage Roar and Druid of the Claw enables him to cast Druid of the Claw in cat form with charge and Savage Roar in the same turn, which is an additional 6 damage from his hand.
It's kind of a soft combo, a little bit. Like you do get a combo, you do get some charger, you just don't get a bunch of trees, you just get 1 cat instead.
But Purple does taunt up big time.
He understands, he sees the writing on the wall and what he needs to play around. And that's a 7 health taunt and an 8 health taunt respectively, and that's gonna put him.
That's a silence effect, and now Jab's Emperor did live. So he is going to get another turn with that cost reduction if he does not choose to attack it into anything this turn.
That said, I would be surprised if he doesn't attack with it, because at this point, if he doesn't, there's a world where Shadow Flame really punishes him.
It's true. But though, will he attack with it potentially into Mountain Giant? Does he want to get rid of that? Or he can still take out the Twilight Drake.
That's true.
With both of his minions, for instance.
That's true. Just passing here would be incredibly powerful in case there is no Shadow Flame. But if the Shadow Flame was there, he would get punished so hard.
And he chooses not to. He decides, I don't believe you. You don't have Shadow Flame.
And he might get
Purple
rewarded.
does not.
Yeah, Purple's face is kind of, I wish I had a Shadow Flame right now.
Yeah.
Very, very powerful.
He's hoping to find it here. No, that's an Emperor. He does have some place here.
4 damage on the Twilight Drake, too.
And that's one of the key targets here that Purple is relying on to protect him.
Oh, absolutely. Big Game Hunter answers to Dr. Boom, but there's still that Emperor. He has to make some trades for it.
Jab actually even has, next turn, he has, thanks to the cost reduction of the Emperor, he can play Keeper to silence something, Druid of the Claw with charge, and Savage Roar all in the same turn. Wow. He has enormous burst potential coming out of his hand.
Thanks, Emperor Thorsan.
Yeah.
Thanks. What a guy.
It's so powerful even when you get the effect off for 1 turn, but getting it off for 2 turns as a Druid, oh, wow, that's incredible.
Also, he can add insult to injury by just wild growthing for free.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see any BM action.
Probably not, but I believe this is low. And I think Purple played the wrong card.
No, he missed 8 damage with the Giant.
Oh, he just didn't attack with Giant?
But we have
I think he's dead.
Yeah, he's
just dead.
He's just going to die here.
Jab is going to take the series 3-0 and advance to the semifinals.
And a huge victory for Jab. Moving on to the semifinals, he is 1 step closer to becoming the America's champion.
Jab played that extremely well, and in the first and the third match, respectively, very aggressive lines. Oh, the deal
Puts
with
on
his
the shades.
sunglasses. A little bit of swag from Jab.
Enjoying the moment.
Jab looks great with the sunglasses. See him coming up here. Very well played by Jab, and he's made it to the semifinals. His dream of actually becoming the America's Championship, not like last year, not falling, very close to coming true.
I mean, a huge step up for him from his performance last year. And as he said, he feels like he's become a much stronger player over the last year, and he's certainly proven it here.
Yeah, this is his moment. This seems to be he's on fire here. I've been really impressed just watching him play, and I think he has good chances to maybe take the whole thing.
Absolutely.
And for Purple, this isn't the end of the road. Obviously, he still has an opportunity to make it out of these group stages into the semifinals, and I expect him to reflect on this match. Purple, a very confident player, so losing in a 3-0 fashion is definitely going to give him probably something to think about. In the end, it may be good for him to kind of get that experience and move forward to his next match.
Yeah, Purple has another chance tomorrow. He might still win his decider match and move on to semifinals as well. Obviously, he wanted to move on today, but better luck tomorrow, I guess.
All right. Yeah, well, we want to go ahead and thank our sponsors, Totino's and the Amazon App Store, and we're actually going to go ahead and get an interview here on our way out.